Aloha everyone, young and old, and thank you for watching our program today. Sparky Would Go, a Kauai talk show for the whole family. United States Senator Spark Matsunaga was born on October 8, 1916, and raised on Kauai, Hawaii. Born Masayuki Matsunaga, the beloved Sparky nickname was given to him by his elementary school friends. Sparky liked the name so much, though, that he legally added it to his birth name after World War II. If we emphasize the life and works of our greatest contributors, people will come to realize that moral courage is bravery of the highest type, and America will be called the champion of peace. Sparky was a political visionary who dedicated his life to peace and a united world. This program series honors those people and organizations who are living examples of how to persevere through the hard times, showing us that our lives are worth living. Hi everyone, my name is Mark Jeffers, and here we are, an episode of Sparky Would Go. And boy, we've got a great guest today. I mean, I'm just so happy to be with my friend, David Orr. And we're going to call you a conservationist.
Thank you.
That's the term, and I feel really great because it's a term that I'm learning about. I haven't learned that term yet, but every time I'm with David and we're out in the field, I feel that I'm learning a lot about conservation and the, I guess you say, the joy of knowing about and being able to propagate and care for native plants. Mm-hmm. And so that's David's specialty. But of course, in an oral history interview like this, we want to learn about this person, David Orr. And what we want to start with is a little bit about who he is, where he's from, some of his adventures, some of his family. So let's get started. David, tell us where you live now and where you're working now, and just a little bit about yourself personally, and then I'll ask you more questions as we go, okay?
Okay. Well, I am currently working for Waimea Valley. Mm-hmm. I'm half-time now, almost retired, but I have been there now for 36 years.
36 years.
And I've watched that place go through so many changes.
Yeah.
I was originally taught under a really inspirational leader. Mm-hmm. His name was Keith Williams.
Right.
And he had been trained at the Kew School of Horticulture back in England.
Right.
And Keith was just such an inspiration. He really set me on my path right now, and
So mentor we would use.
I would definitely call him a mentor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, Keith was even a mentor to Chipper Wickman, and
yeah.
I mean, he was the botanist at National Tropical Botanical Garden back when it was still Pacific Tropical Botanical Garden.
Right. So in Waimea Valley, we're talking about a 2, 3, 4 mile part of that valley that is used as a place for tourists to come and be introduced to Hawaiian culture and rare plants and canoe plants. And
yeah, the whole valley property is almost 3 square miles.
Okay.
But the way it is on the map, you wouldn't really recognize it because it goes way off into the interior.
Right.
But in cultivation is only about 150 acres.
I see.
And it's a very scenic place with this waterfall.
And how did you get there?
I had always known about Waimea, and I just wished I could work there someday.
Yeah.
I had been trained really at Lion Arboretum, which is the university's botanical garden.
In Manoa.
And that was just up the valley, a half-hour bicycle ride from where my job was at the Montessori Elementary School.
Right.
Where I had been teaching for actually only 2 years at that point, and that was with elementary school kids.
Sure. So
I said that.
Take us back, the wheel backwards here now. This is your Hawaii life, but we're going to come back to that. And I want you to take us back to your place of birth, which is, strangely enough, I'm not going to say, well, I'll say it, strangely enough, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, ladies and gentlemen. And I love Pittsburgh. I love Kennywood Amusement Park. Mm-hmm. You know, I love Castle Shannon Fire Department.
Yeah, Pittsburgh is
so where were you born and when and how'd that all happen?
Born in 1950 in St. Margaret's Hospital, right next to the place where they make all the Heinz ketchup in the world. So I always recognize that as a kindred soul when I see it internationally.
Heinz ketchup.
But I've been so lucky to have had the freedom to travel. And I've just had the bug for traveling ever since I was little.
How'd you get the bug? Did you get bit by a bug?
It just was
or something?
natural.
Yeah.
I went as far as I could from my home in Pittsburgh by bicycle in all directions. I kept these maps and I would put red lines as far as my parents were perfectly happy as long as I got off the bicycle and crossed.
Now, let me tell you how difficult it is. And Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is a very hilly country. All the surrounding areas are up and down hills, right? All
Yeah,
the
and
small
you're going
towns,
over
right?
bridges to get
Yeah.
away from the center of the city. And
How old were you when you were bicycling on your adventures?
oh, probably 10 to 13, 14.
Now, I call that healthy neglect. In other words, bye, Mom, bye, Dad.
Yeah, no, they've always given me a lot of freedom.
Trusting you, though. I mean, and a loving family?
Very.
Brothers and sisters?
2 younger brothers and 1 younger sister.
Okay, and good relationships throughout
Totally,
growing
yeah.
up days?
Yeah, sure.
And still in touch with them?
Oh, very much so, yeah.
And Mom and Dad are still alive?
Nope, they're both gone.
Okay.
But they were both very quick in leaving, which was a blessing for the 3 of us, the 4 of us kids. And
Yeah.
it was just inevitable, but
Right.
it happened.
Did you know your grandparents?
Very well, yeah.
They lived close by.
Not close by. My paternal grandparents were only about a mile away. And that's where we would have our traditional Easter and Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners.
Yeah. That's the best part of growing up in the middle of America is just the family thing,
Yeah,
right?
but then my maternal grandparents were off in Plainfield, New Jersey, and I didn't see them nearly as much. But my mom had a real tight family too, and she was the youngest of a bunch of
Cultural,
sisters.
Catholic, Jewish, Methodist.
Just good old American. I mean,
Yeah.
my parents were both Sunday school teachers.
Oh, is that right?
So yeah, so we were very much in the thick of the goodness of America in the,
So you could
in
recite
the Norman Rockwell best.
Okay. How about the 8 Beatitudes? Can you give it to us right now?
No, because that sounds Catholic to me, and we were Episcopalian.
My Catholic is coming out. Okay,
yeah.
so I'm sorry. So 1950, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and you had a good child. You would say a good child, a happy
I'd
child.
say so, yeah. I mean, it still was. I mean, I think of the bicycle trips as
Yeah.
the coolest thing I was doing back then.
Now, you did mention something about meeting Fred Rogers and being part of the Josie Carey show. Tell us a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
before Fred Rogers was famous as Mr. Rogers, he was just the puppeteer for the Josie Carey show.
Ah,
And we were really involved with KDKA. And no, I'm sorry, that's the first commercial network which was in America. But what was it called? Our Public Education TV.
not QED.
WQED, yes.
WQED, yeah.
Was
okay.
one of the first in the nation.
Yes.
And it was situated in this old former church building, or it's kind of a castle.
That's what I
right in-
remember. I thought
yeah.
it was a brewery.
Yeah, well, it was right in very,
Center of Pittsburgh.
very close to the campus of the University of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And I remember walking in there and being, strapped on with microphones and everything. And
So they were smart enough to do children's television back in the 1950s
yeah,
and
I'm
60s.
sure they were,
Yeah,
ahead of their time.
yeah. And what part did you play?
Well, I was the ringleader in this circus that we put on as a fundraiser for WQED.
okay.
And I think we raised a total of $10.40 cents, and
That's pretty
that
impressive
was
for the
that was a lot of money back then. Yeah,
Did they have you doing some of your piano skills?
not then. No, that was just in a concrete driveway that we put on that play.
Okay, and where would you judge your piano skills? Where did you learn them?
Well, I went to a piano teacher that was just a friend of the parents, and I don't think she really was a formal teacher. And just on my own, I would get bits of sheet music from the music store downtown Pittsburgh. I would take the bus
Whoa,
down there,
that's big.
and then I would come back and learn every song, just because I could never sight read music, but bit by bit I could pull out the chords. And I was playing piano for most of my parents' cocktail parties and all these kind of.
Yeah. David, come play the piano
Yeah,
for
exactly
us.
like that, right? And so people really thought I was some sort of prodigy. But all I was doing was playing stuff I'd memorized.
Yeah.
And my mom, I don't want to say some bad things about her, but she told everybody I played by ear. And I'll remember when one of my parents' friends said, "Hey, play this."
Yeah. Let me hum it and you play it.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Right.
So
And
I never had that skill.
was there such a thing as recording?
No.
in those days? No one ever recorded any?
No, actually, I did go to a better piano studio. And so did so many other people from my church and my school. And it was all because David was going there.
Right.
I mean, honestly, they thought I was the product of the teaching of this school.
What a world.
I know, it's really
Now,
strange.
you are old enough to have thought about and dealt with being drafted into Vietnam. What was your time like
was
that
so
for
lucky.
Vietnam?
Yeah, no, I was born in 1950, so I was in the lottery. And I got a fairly low number of 137. And
You would have gone depending on the year.
that's
right?
just the thing. I think it climbed up to 125 that year.
Yeah.
But there was this little provision that a lot of people didn't know about, that if you declared yourself, if you gave up your 2S deferment, as a college student, and made yourself available to being drafted, even at the last day of the year, and you weren't drafted, then you're home free.
Wow.
And so that happened to me when I happened to be an exchange student in South India. So by Western Union, I was able to declare myself, 1A, okay, you can draft me if you want. And luckily, it never happened. And
Wow, that is lucky.
Yeah.
We all went through that, but I mean, just the
it was terrifying.
the luck of the draw, right?
yeah, it really was.
Right. So,
My
but
number
your
could've been
your
lower.
sentiments were definitely that you weren't going to go to Vietnam.
Yeah, and I was already out of the country, and I probably just wouldn't have returned if I had been drafted.
Now, you had some adventures before you got out of the country. Tell us about this canoe trip down the Ohio River.
Well, that was something that came out of my last year of being in India. I read Mark Twain's Life on the Mississippi, and that just inspired me. And
Yeah.
I said, damn it, I'm going to take a canoe from Pittsburgh to New Orleans.
Pittsburgh to New Orleans.
Yeah, and it's about a 2,000-mile trip. And I actually talked to the makers of a canoe that was only 12 feet long. And I was saying, hey, how about if I take this down, will you give me the canoe for free? And then you can make all sorts of publicity out of my trip.
Yeah.
And thank God they said no. Because from my experience, when I finally did do this river trip in a good 15-foot canoe with about 3 feet wide girth, had I been on that tiny boat, I would have been swamped and overturned by the wakes of larger boats all the time.
Yeah.
As it was, I had chosen the perfect boat, which was very stable, and I could even put a sail in it. And so I went for about 430 miles, got around the whole bottom of Ohio with
Yeah,
Kentucky on
Marietta.
the other side. And
Yeah.
How did you get through Indiana, though.
How did you get through the locks?
That was the most amazing thing, because I was expecting, I had actually equipped my canoe with a couple of wheels so I could portage it around the locks and dams.
Oh, okay.
But my canoe, I had painted right before I left Pittsburgh, a little thing on the front saying, New Orleans or bust. And when the lockmasters saw that on my canoe, they opened the entire lock chamber for my single canoe.
What a world.
I know. So this thing, which is 105 feet wide and 600 feet long, drained, 20 or 30 feet of water as I was going down.
Well,
the
I'll
river.
tell you a secret. My grandfather was the lockmaster at Hannibal, Ohio. So
That's
he probably
one of the
did
locks
that
I knew
for you.
very well. Yeah, because I did go through that one.
Yeah, he was that for his whole working life. Man, my papa worked on the Jason, which was not a steamboat, but it was a diesel boat, and it was a barge pusher, and he was an engineer, second engineer on that journey. Yeah. So you did.
The river.
Yeah.
That was the coolest job I ever had. Because
Yeah.
had I never known that between the cities, you were in absolute wild America.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe how much wildlife we saw just coming right down to the edge of the river. And one of my great regrets is that I really loved chemistry at the time. And I had a good relationship with this chemistry professor. And my plan was to get these sterile bottles and take water samples all the way down the river. And that would have given that trip so much purpose. And at the last second, just the stupidest thing kept it from happening, like the bottles broke, so it fell through somehow.
Yeah.
And to my dying day, I think that would have kept me on this trip, because I really just got bored of listening to the same radio programs and paddling. And after about 3.5 weeks, I was just going, okay.
Anybody ever call you Huckleberry?
No.
All right. So this little adventure big, but it set something in motion.
Yeah.
It set this travel thing in motion. Now you have so much travel listed on your data sheet. Can you tell me, how did this labyrinth of travel sort of unfold for you somehow? I mean, was it just got an idea or heard somebody say something or met somebody, or did you actually have a method to what you were doing?
Well, the very first time that I did some major traveling, I think, was when I hitchhiked across the Trans-Canada. And I was going to go with a couple of friends from college, and one of them dropped out. So I was with this one girl, Wendy, and we hitchhiked all the way to the West Coast. And at that point, I had some inkling of going up to Alaska to fight fires because they were paying a whole lot, but it was pretty dangerous. And the lure of going down to work in Bakersfield and some of the that just seemed like a wonderful plan instead.
Yeah, better thing to do.
And so that's what I did, and I had a wonderful time. I picked peaches and cherries and apples, and eventually got as far south as LA, and then slowly made my way back hitchhiking.
So you weren't intimidated by, the travel, the sticking your thumb out, and just whatever came
Not
up
at all.
for you?
It was such a friendly
Yeah.
world back then. If
Yeah,
you
I
saw a
remember doing
Volkswagen
some of
headed
that.
your way, you were going to have a ride. no
Yeah,
matter
who
what.
are you? What you didn't get to meet people the whole time.
And
So
the
this
other
was kind
real
of the
adventure
universe.
I had in that trip was in going back. I was in Butte, Montana, right at the time that a hitchhiker had been picked up, and they found somebody's hand in his pocket. So that got a lot of publicity, and nobody was picking up hitchhikers.
Oh.
So I had no alternative but to hop freight trains. And I went from Butte, Montana, all the way to St. Paul, Minnesota, in a coal car.
Whoa.
Just getting peppered with coal dust the whole way. And when I finally landed there, where am I? Where am I? And I was, just black with soot. And I crawled down, and they actually hosed me off in some Salvation Army center, and gave me a place to stay.
Yeah. So were you documenting any of this? Were you writing about it, thinking about it?
Yes, I
Did you
kept this
call home? Did
fantastic-
mom and dad want to know
Oh,
where
I
you were?
always kept in touch with them, yeah.
Yeah.
But I did keep this fantastic notebook that I lost because I went to the Goose Lake Rock Festival.
I heard about that.
Yeah, this was the year after Woodstock.
That was in Michigan.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And they had set up what was going to be a permanent Woodstock every year, but it only happened the first time. But absolutely everybody that was great played for that.
Yeah.
And it was a wonderful time. But during that time, I lost my backpack, and that had my notes in it.
Oh, that's too bad.
It was very sad, yes.
Yeah. All right, so you're traveling, and now when did you go out of the country in that part of your travels?
Well, I guess my first real out-of-the-country experience was the India program that I applied for and was surprised that I was accepted for in my sophomore year at the College of Worcester in Ohio. And they were part of the Great Lakes College Association, which every year chose 15 students from 12 colleges to go as an exchange student to South India.
Wow, that's big.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
And it was just so exciting when we landed. I remember as a group in Bombay and took some wonderful train all the way down to what was then Madras.
What were you learning?
Well, while I was in India, I took 5 courses, and one was the local language, Tamil, and the other was the Bulankaro, the 9-holed flute. That is part of Indian, formal music. And I studied with a fantastic teacher that really took me into his home, and his wife would milk the cow so we would have cream in our coffee. And,
bring your coffee cup over here.
And I also did my senior thesis over there, still with my medical bent, on Ayurvedic medicine, which everyone knows about now, but back then that was sort of unheard of.
Yeah.
And I did my senior thesis was the history and theory of Ayurvedic medicine, and there were these Karaka and Susuda Samhitas. These were these, documents upon which Ayurveda is based. And I was interviewing actually Tamil doctors that, spoke a little bit of English, but not much. So I
Got to
came
know
up
it
with a
from the
pretty good paper.
inside. Yeah. And did you bring that back and use it at any other times in your life?
Never, no, I never had the courage to put I mean, I did even have a degree after taking this 9-month course in a postal course in Ayurveda.
Right.
I could have practiced, but I didn't feel qualified.
Now, was Hawaii your next stop after India?
No, I spent a lot of time deciding what to do because I got back from India in '72, and then a lot of my river travels were from '72 to '74.
Oh, I see.
And in 1974, a friend from New York City and I were going to go down to Jamaica. And at the last second, we found out it was cheaper to get a round trip ticket to Colombia. And the two of us went to Barranquilla, Colombia, and basically did the continent overland, except once we got all the way down to Ecuador and Peru, my friend's father called him up and said, "Hey, I can get you both jobs in the Alaskan pipeline if you want." And my friend Rick said,
Halfway
"Yahoo,
around the
why
world,
not?"
right?
Right. And so Rick said, "Yahoo," and he's unfortunately dead now, and I think it's because he had to breathe all those hydrocarbons in the confined settings he was
Oh,
up
my
in
smokes,
Prudhoe
yeah.
Bay.
Right.
Yeah.
That's dangerous work.
I mean, he was paid through the nose, and he eventually married this girl that he met in 1978 when he came and visited me in Hawaii. And they both became Christians and developed, adopted 2 Chinese daughters.
But you were left there in South America when he left?
Yeah, no, I stayed there because I was having such a great time, and
Yeah.
Rick was happy to go back and work in Alaska.
I see.
But then that led to what turned out to probably be the biggest adventure of my life. And it was really a moment of real decision, do I want to do this or not? And I was standing on the banks of the highest navigable part of the Rio Napo, which is one of the main tributaries and the westernmost tributary to the Amazon. And I had met an Australian on the Colombian-Ecuadorian border. And the two of us decided to do this trip. But we found out about a few days later that some missionary had just been killed and eaten by the I forget which Indians.
Doesn't matter the name.
Yeah,
Just
it was
stay away from those guys.
A tribe that was right in the thick of
Yeah.
where we'd be going right through.
Oh, I see.
And so it was like, do we want to do this or not? And
Yeah.
that's. So sure enough, we had a fantastic trip. And it took about 2.5 months, but we made it down to Iquitos, which is a Peruvian city, but it's on the Amazon. So that was actually the first time I was on the Amazon when the Rio Napo hit Iquitos, and that's where the river turns into
What was
the Amazon.
impressing you about being on the Amazon? And
This was 1974, and the forest came right to the edge of the water.
Wow.
So we were just going through these amazingly narrow channels of dense forest. And when I went back to that exact same river 16 years later in 1990 as an employee of Waimea, it had been clear cut to the horizon.
Oh my
And
gosh.
the only thing standing were Ceiba pentandra trees, kapok trees that are kind of
Weed.
worthless for
Yeah.
wood. But where I was headed in 1990 was a botanical research station on the Rio Napo that a botanist from the Missouri Botanical Garden, which is kind of America's Kew, this botanist, David Neal, and his mother bought a square mile of property right on the edge of the Rio Napo.
To
set up,
preserve?
and set up the Hatun Sacha research station. And so I was one of the first visitors to this station, which still exists, and it's just a fantastic place. But there is the last place where the riverine, flora of Ecuador is intact still.
So your work at Waimea, when you came to Hawaii and started working there, came full circle to that time when you were there in the 70s.
Yeah, a very influential person I met, Rob Montgomery, who had collected a lot of plants for Waimea, and he is in the process of writing a book on how to collect plants and what kind of data to gather.
Oh, great.
And he was also he was mentored by Keith Williams, who was
Had Keith been in that section of
Keith
that?
had been all over the world. Keith had been a botanical garden director in New Guinea.
Wow.
And I mean, this is a hawk-nosed, kind of frail not frail, I wouldn't say, because he had kind of Popeye arms, but he was just an amazing guy who I think was kind of defeated by Waimea. It was privately owned back then, and
Right.
I think they really screwed him.
Tell us this, bring us back into Hawaii now. I know there was other travels here, but get us to your...
Yeah, when I first came to Hawaii,
yeah,
that was when, let's see,
1980, early 80s, back to Hawaii.
yeah, no, I was first in Hawaii
1982.
as I came over in 76,
Uh-huh.
and I just wanted to live in a tropical part of the U.S.
There we go.
And I was so naive about Hawaii, I didn't know anybody that had been here. And I actually went to the Carnegie Museum and made a little cheat sheet, thinking that I would end up in places, because I was definitely going to try to get off the beaten track as much as possible,
Yeah.
that where I would be in places where people didn't speak English. So I at least had the numbers in Hawaiian, and
Yeah.
hi, and I want, and sort of basics of your
You thought everybody spoke
limited
Hawaiian.
skills, yep.
Yeah.
So I actually knew that. But also, when I first arrived in Hawaii, I came across this amazing book written by, can I come up with his name? He wrote a book called Stalking the Wild Asparagus. Does that ring a bell to you?
Yeah, it does ring a bell, but I
Yule
don't know
Gibbons was his name.
Oh,
And
yeah.
when he was in his 20s, he was a beach bum in Waikiki.
Oh, my God.
And he wrote this amazing little book on how you could just live off of the weeds that were growing in nearby Manoa Valley. And that was my Bible. And I still have to this day my little handwritten notes that I made from that with all these misspelled Hawaiian
very eccentric
plants
guy, but
and-
very friendly looking.
Yeah,
There's
but-
a lot of aloha. Yeah, Yule Gibbons. I remember that guy.
Yeah, and I ended up in this wonderful little neighborhood in Manoa, beyond the university.
Right.
And there was a Montessori school there. And I ended up teaching at this school. And I was still friends with Brent and Kim up in the North Shore. But
And it was in a Chinese cemetery, which was quite large and had been gifted to the Chinese people by David Kalakaua, the last
Yes.
king of Hawaii. So it was a very special place that
Extremely,
you
yeah.
had entered there. And you were considered yourself a teacher, or?
yeah, they paid me under the table, and I had a college degree, and that's all the qualification I needed for being a Montessori assistant teacher. And I became the art teacher for this place, and everything that I made for my kids moved. And so I made a lot of toys for them too, and these big tilt table games where you'd roll a tennis ball called Fireball and try to avoid these bits and make it go up and down.
Game maker, a scientist who, I mean, that's what I knew David then, I met David then. I was impressed by his classroom and always the curious things that you were creating with children. What age were you working with in that
First
nursery?
through sixth grade.
Okay, so elementary school age kids. And did you feel that you were a competent teacher? The children
very
were
much.
learning?
Oh, they love me.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you
As a
still
matter of
stay in
fact,
touch with any
It
of them?
just fulfilled my parenting needs for the whole lifetime. And I think I was closer to a lot of my kids than they were to their parents.
Fulfilled his parenting needs. I like how he said that. All right, and so you taught there for 4 or 5 years.
No, yeah, well, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And then they were moving off to a different part. If I wanted to continue teaching with them, I would have had to become a Honolulu urban
Right.
dweller, and I didn't want that.
We're talking with David Orr, and what's important here is to realize that someone with David's experiences, not only in working as a conservationist, but also in his travels around the world, he's seeing things that are influencing the times in the Amazon, the times on the Ohio River. These are experiences like all of us have in our lives that determine who we become. So what we want to do is go back a little bit, and we want to pick up some of his travels, and then we want to get him planted at Waimea Valley. So we're going to take it back to when he actually still lived on Oahu in Hawaii, and but he was working at the airport. Now that was a little difficult because that's like a 40-mile, 35-mile trip from Haleiwa to the airport. But tell us, what made you want to work at the airport and live in Haleiwa at the same time? It was just all came about, or how did that happen?
I just recognized that as a pretty neat job to have.
Yeah,
and
airport.
I never really looked for anything local to do.
Flight benefits?
Nope, unfortunately, I wish.
Okay. Well, he was the liquor concierge, so that might have been a benefit.
No.
I'm not sure.
Not back then.
All right, but how long did you work at the airport for?
Almost 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah,
Wow.
76 to 79.
Okay.
And we were using a black computer back then to
Yeah.
put in the inventory every day. And
Right. So training and with inventories and documentation of stuff. And then how did you get into the Pacific?
that was a rumor flying that Continental was opening up its Pacific route, and you could go just by plopping down $500. You could stay as long as you wanted in several places in the Pacific, and I went to all of them: Fiji, Samoa, and then Western Samoa,
Why don't they do that now?
Australia, New Zealand. and
Okay. How long did you stay in each one of those places?
That was about a month each.
Wow.
And so it
That's
wasn't
enough time to
yeah.
really get to know the place. And then what was your favorite part of that? What was your favorite
I
place?
think
do
Western
you think?
Samoa, because
Yeah.
I felt I was in the real Polynesia then.
Yeah. Upolu.
Yeah, well, the main island,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Did you go up to Robert Louis Stevenson's house?
I did, yeah. But on
Right.
top of that, I met up with some Peace Corps people that were on a plane with me.
Uh-huh.
And they were making their annual trip out to this little island called Manono, which is between the two major islands of Western Samoa, Savai'i and Popo'olu. Or
Yeah,
Popolu.
Upolu.
Upolu, right. And so this little Manono island is only about a mile in diameter.
Yeah.
And with all the Peace Corps people, we walked all around it. And it was like I was in the middle of Polynesia as it was probably 500 years ago.
Right.
And I just, wow,
Did you
was
go
I
up
ever
Mount
touched.
Vaea?
Didn't, no.
Under the wide and starry sky?
No,
Dig my
no.
grave and let me Sorry, I had to go off. All right, so Western Samoa, that was your favorite. And
Mm-hmm.
how else were you in the Pacific? Did you go down to Aotearoa?
I did, and
Okay.
I love New Zealand. I went to the North and South Islands and went all around and really pretty thoroughly saw that. And this was before New Zealand was discovered and destroyed by
Or even
the
called
world.
Aotearoa?
Yeah.
Did you have your botanical glasses on, or?
Not really, because I did not get into botany until my early 40s, late 30s.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
But
With all
you
my travels.
were interested and curious like you've been everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And what kind of people did you meet down there?
Mostly backpackers. And
Yeah,
I was
people
into
cruising.
that,
Yeah.
subculture of mostly a European, international crowd and very forward-thinking people, and very few Americans, which I think I loved.
Did you want to stay?
Nope, because I did want to
You
get
know,
home.
what were you doing?
Yeah.
You were traveling and
Right.
enjoying everything. Now, somehow you got from there to Africa. How'd that happen?
That was when I got back. Now, wait a minute. Africa was in 1980. I'm sorry, yes. Yeah, 1980,
Sudan.
right. And I saw this little ad in the New York Times travel section for overseas adventure travel. And I sent off to a brochure from them.
Yeah.
They were based in Cambridge, England.
Yeah.
And they sent me back this brochure saying, London to Nairobi, 7 weeks, $700. And I said, okay, that's me. And they actually had me, and there was one other American, but the rest of the 20 of us were all from remote parts of England, Wales and way up in Scotland. And
Right.
just a really cool crowd, though. And it turned out that all but 4 of us had already been overland in Asia.
Wow.
So it was a
lot in
well-traveled group.
Yeah.
And they put us in a pink-painted Bedford truck, a British Army truck, that pulled behind it an equally pink trailer where all our tents were. And that's why this was only $700.
This is a safari then.
Yeah, totally. And we went through Europe. Went across to France. There wasn't a channel back then. And then down to eventually Greece, and took the ferry over to Alexandria.
Wow.
And the very first night we were on the African continent, we were mistaken for Israeli commandos.
Holy
We were
smokes.
shot at by Egyptian army people.
Oh my gosh.
And they were just, warning shots.
Right.
And we, tourista, tourista. But what we had done is just come, off the boat in our pink painted British Army truck. And we were just looking for a place to camp out down the beach, down the coast. And we made a few miles down, thought we were totally safe, set up tents, and suddenly, bing.
Wow.
And then we ended up posing with our Egyptian army compatriots there.
Oh, cool.
They let us hold their
Rifles?
rifles. So
Ha!
we were posing to make pictures to send back home as if we were Patty Hearst holding the
Oh yeah,
Kalashnikov.
expatriates, right?
Right.
Going to fight for the
So
kind.
that was a nice greeting to Africa.
What else did you do in Africa?
Boy, that was just the most amazing trip because we had the freedom to go pretty much anywhere.
This is in this late 70s,
This
early
was
80s.
in 1980, probably the best time to have gone there because it was right after the Begin-Sadat Accords. Everyone thought, peace and light for the rest of the world forever and ever now.
Yeah, yeah.
And as an American or as British, we were just loved by almost everyone we met in
That's
Egypt.
amazing. Don't do that now.
No, but I was with this girl and we just became really good friends, and this Diane, and we befriended a member of the Egyptian police that allowed us and a few other people from our group to go up to the top of the Cheops pyramid.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. So once we got up to the top there, I heard the most amazing, really low-pitched humming, just absolutely
the voice of
otherworldly.
God, right?
Yeah. And there was graffiti left by Napoleonic French soldiers up at the top there too.
What a world.
It was, and I have some great pictures of me standing on top with the other pyramids in the background.
Yeah, you and Mark Antony conquering the whole affair there. And then
And
where
then
did
as
you
we
go
went
from there?
further south,
Yeah.
then we went into Sudan, which was basically untraveled by anybody back then. And little did we know it, but we were going right through the middle of Sudan at exactly the wrong time of year. And we almost died. We were stuck in the Sud swamps where we never should have been. And there would be not a single thing as far as the eye could see all the way to the horizon except a few trees.
Desert.
Well, no, it was like a 3-inch deep lake we were
Wow.
going through. And luckily at no point did the wheels sink into the ground, but we had to keep moving. And at some times the wheels would start spinning. We would have to go off to the horizon, cut down one of those trees, bring it back to put it under the wheels to get some momentum going again.
Whoa.
And yes, it was really life or death.
How'd you get out of the situation?
We eventually, just pure luck, saw this thing on the horizon that looked like a Ferris wheel. And it was an abandoned French project to drain the Sud swamps that had been, I guess, up and running in the early 70s, and then they just walked away from it. But that was our one chance to get onto a real road. So I remember we moved railroad ties. Yeah.
How many of you were there?
Well, eventually there were 7 of us that hitchhiked into northern Kenya, but we left with 20. So I think about 13 of them flew from this little town we finally got to called Malakal on the banks of the Nile in Sudan. And we were just famished when we got there. We'd run out of food. We were trading underpants for baby goats that we boiled.
Oh my gosh.
And several of the people had bloody diarrhea.
Yeah.
And I mean, really seriously.
Yeah, we don't even
And
know
needed.
how to deal with where you're at, you
Yeah.
know. Now, get us, we're going to take this travel bug of yours and we're going to put you now in the Taiwan, Indonesia, China affair so that we can get this whole impulse you have back into the work that you've created at Waimea. So we want to take us into this from Africa, unless there's something really dynamic there. Take us over to your time in Taiwan and in mainland China.
Well, yeah, I went to Taiwan, I say right after Reagan was elected. I was just really pissed off in America. And I heard through my brother, my younger brother, that you could get jobs in Taiwan just teaching English. And you didn't even have to know Mandarin because you would be speaking with fairly rich Taiwanese and just helping them with their idioms and their accents and things like that.
Sure.
So I signed up to formally teach English, and I had a classroom of about 20 Chinese kids.
Kids or adults?
Halfway between, college age.
Yeah.
And I lived in a place called the Guoji Shui Shi, which was the abandoned place during Chiang Kai-shek's
Getting out of the Mao Zedong affair.
yeah, when he went over to Taiwan and brought all the treasures of China with him. There was a palace built to him, and right next to this was this building which used to be the place where kings and queens and presidents would be received by the Taiwanese government. But then it was converted into student housing.
Wow.
So I was with a lot of expat Chinese
Wow,
that
yeah.
had gone to other parts of the world and then come back to, realize their Chineseness. So it was a really cool
Realize their
group that I was with. We had a
Chineseness.
TV in there, and everyone was explaining to me what the soap operas meant. And
Yeah, we forget about the trial that whole was for Taiwan after the Cultural Revolution of Mao and what those people were going through. And you were there right in that time frame, right?
well, it was already pretty well established. Taiwan was a thriving,
Yeah.
economy when I went there, and very, very friendly.
Yeah.
Amazingly friendly.
And you didn't feel like settling down there,
Never have I felt like
marrying
settling
a
anywhere.
good Chinese girl. And,
No.
Okay.
No,
I'm just.
but I did meet some nice women.
Yeah.
And the one though that I met that I had a great time with is she was Haole, but we went together down to the Philippines, and this was in the middle of the Marcos era, and island hopped, and just
there's
got
enough
on
islands over
steamers to. I would carry around a bottle of tuba, which is fermented coconut juice, and would share cigarettes with everybody, and we just partied with all sorts of locals,
Make
going
friends,
from island to
yeah.
island, and
Yeah.
sometimes invited to parties.
And the language you were able to get along in the Philippines?
Yeah, everyone spoke English there.
Okay.
No problem.
For the war days,
certainly
right?
not everyone, but the
And
people we
then
associated with.
where'd you hop after the Philippines?
Well, I mean, I traveled all the way down to Negros. I saw quite a bit of the lower islands, and it was just so beautiful. And Boracay Beach, I think, was the most beautiful I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
Just pure white sand, like sugar.
Sweet.
Yeah, and then so I went back to Taiwan, and I guess just finished up my teaching, and I was hearing through the backpacker grapevine that there was this amazing opportunity for people exactly in my position that already had a little bit of Mandarin. I called it survival
living in China.
survival skills, or
Right.
survival hua is speaking. And so you could take a passport to this place where all backpackers went to in Kowloon, the
Yeah.
mainland part of Hong Kong.
Right.
There's this place called the Chungking Mansions, and that was such a colorful place. I'll never forget getting into an elevator there, and there were these people that had just got off from some plane or something, and they were with all these still bloody elephant tusks,
Whoa.
taking them up to this, to whatever
Whoa.
floor
Yeah.
they dealt with.
Poachers.
Yeah, totally. So I mean, this was a CD, totally, kind of out of
Novel.
fiction.
Edgar
Yeah,
Rice
kind of.
Burroughs.
Right. So sure enough, I found this person and surrendered my passport, which you're never supposed to do, and a $10 bill. Came back the next morning, and there I had an official chop in my passport. So I was one of the first independent travelers. And I was in Tiananmen Square like 7 or 8 years before the massacre.
So you went from Taiwan to China on this opportunity.
Yeah.
Where did you land in China, mainland China?
I went up through the north and the New Territories, which is kind of the back part of Kowloon, and just starting in Guangzhou, just took public transportation, went up to Beijing at
Pretty good.
first,
Yeah.
and then I really did some amazing things. I went over to Xi'an, which is the old capital of China. Now this is a time when people are still wearing Mao suits. I mean, I
Yeah.
was in China before it was at all westernized.
Did you get the hat with the red star?
Yep, saw lots of people wearing that. But I did something in Taiwan that I will always feel so good about, and I made so many people laugh out loud in China, in
How'd you
mainland
do
China
that?
when I got
How'd you
there.
do that?
I made a set of T-shirts, and I gave away most of them. But it had the Chinese characters for Yang Guizi on the front of it, and that is the word that they use for foreign devil.
Foreign devil.
Yeah, and
Foreign
the same,
devil.
yeah, the same kind of antique connotation
Yeah.
that we laugh at when we hear that term now.
Right.
The Chinese have when they see an actual Haole wearing a shirt identifying himself as a foreign devil.
So you rose your hand and said,
Yeah, no,
"Foreign
I would
devil?"
just be walking down the streets of any major city in China, and people laughing their heads off it. So I mean, it was not laughing at me; it was
Yeah.
laughing
Hey.
with me.
The former foreign devil here we're talking to.
But boy, I hooked up with these two Dutch travelers, and 3 of us went everywhere.
Yeah.
And went to
Great
these
Wall.
bull fights where it's not
Yeah.
people versus bulls, it's bulls versus bulls.
Ah,
And that was a fascinating thing. Bulls would, and these were, you know, the broad type of bulls, and they would actually flip each other upside down
holy smokes.
by locking horns. And that was pretty thrilling.
Like chicken fighting, only
Mm-hmm.
bigger.
Yeah.
And then how long were you there and when did you leave?
About 3 months I was in China mainland altogether. And as I was leaving, I found out there was an opportunity for me to extend my visa. Because I think it was 3 months and I used every day of it
Wow.
when I first got it. And I could have gone overland up to Mongolia.
Right.
And then maybe even to Tibet. But, you know, I had just had it with traveling at that point. I needed to get back
Yeah.
to luxury and
Get me back to America.
yeah, so that's going to be one of my life regrets that I had an opportunity very few people would have
You
ever
still
had.
go back?
Not at all. No,
So now does that bring you back to Hawaii?
not quite. Yeah, no, it did because in '82 that's when I came back to
Yeah.
teach
Right.
at Montessori.
So that brings us back to the Montessori in
Mm-hmm.
Manoa, where
Right.
David was working with the 1 to 6th grade kids and teaching
Right.
science. And then were you sharing your travel experiences with the kids?
Oh, all the time, sure.
Yeah, right. And then when the school moved and you bumped into this situation, is that what made you think, okay, I'm going to go live on the North Shore of Oahu and try to
No,
make
I
it
was
out
actually
there?
living on the North Shore. Well, I had lived on the North Shore, of course, back in '76 to '79, but I was spending almost all of my weekends up with Brent and Kim,
Sure.
coming to the North Shore.
Sure,
Actually, Kim was out of the picture then. This was
right.
Brent back
I
then.
remember that.
And
So your heart was staying in the North Shore, but you were still working in the city.
right, yeah,
But you knew Oahu was your place at that time.
yeah.
And were you at all connected with Waimea Valley?
No, you know, I went in there. I mean, here I was living about a half mile from its entrance. I was actually on Cam Highway
Yeah,
between Foodland and Waimea.
yeah.
And I only went in there once or twice for some craft fairs.
Well, it was kind of a rockin' place. You know, Waimea Valley had so many different people that owned it and different ideas, entrepreneurial things. I remember seeing Stephen Stills there at the, what was it, the Paradise?
The Proud Peacock.
Proud Peacock.
Yeah.
So it had all this action going on, but there was some kind of transformation in the works, and that was when Keith came.
Yeah, well, no, Keith had been there when I started. He had already been there about 20 years.
Okay.
But the transformation was it just becoming more commercial. And look, Keith really had his own department where he hired everybody. Here's the most amazing thing. I would never have gotten my foot in the door at Waimea if Keith hadn't been off in England on a 6-month project reconditioning some old, you know, royal mansion of some kind.
Oh, okay.
And while he was gone, my current friend, who now lives in Oregon, John Mood, who became the botanist of Waimea, he was in charge of the valley, and he allowed me to arrange the dead seed catalog collection.
Oh, no, what is the Dead Seed collection?
Well, we often get seed batches, and instead of just throwing them away, we keep them just for records to see what the seeds look like. And sometimes we've been happily surprised to find that some of them even germinate still.
Yeah.
So we had a really vast seed collection at Waimea, and
And were you carrying on the work that Keith had started at that point?
well, no, I mean, Keith was still there, but he
Right.
had just been gone for a little bit. But what I was trying to get to is that Keith had a no volunteers policy. So I would not have even been able to get my foot in the door if
Sorry,
John Mood.
no volunteers.
Yeah, because he apparently, I mean, he was so professional. He'd had some experience in the past where some volunteer, probably out of the best intentions, somehow screwed up some major
Sure.
conservation
What do you
project.
think that he and, was it John, saw in you?
I don't know, just an eager kid with a college degree that was willing to work really hard and
Uh-huh.
who was totally into conservation too.
So
And
they
I just
saw
was bought into
something in
Keith's
it?
vision.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
Keith was, I mean, his simple idea was we're going to grow and multiply endangered species, and people will pay for this because they want to see things that can rarely be seen, and they'll come and see the valley.
Were you connecting them, or were you connecting your Amazon experience or your experiences
Not really,
other places?
no.
Okay,
I mean, people knew I'd been widely traveled.
right. And so as you started working, what primarily was your work in those days, in the 80s here when you were there?
I became aware of the other collections in Hawaii there, and I did a lot of commuting between Lion, which was sitting on the best
Oh, yeah,
Howard
you
County
mentioned
collection.
that with working with Ray Baker.
Right.
Yeah. Now, was Ray aware of Keith's work in Waimea?
Totally, yeah.
Okay,
And,
so they were already
yeah, Ray
cooperating.
and Keith were great friends.
Right.
And, Ray
Yeah.
was just,
And Lion Arboretum wasn't fully developed. I mean, Ray had several valley areas that he was just starting to really
Yeah.
develop, right? And but the land was there, and of course Ray was a visionary person, and Lion had the tradition of Beatrice Krause.
right, yeah. And Beatrice and I actually went up Halava Valley together once.
Is that right?
Yeah, because I had been a docent at Lion before I was employed there.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I was never employed at Lion. That was my only association with Lion.
Right.
But they actually gave me letters of introduction to the great botanical gardens of Asia before I left in '87 to go on that trip that took me to Indonesia and Malaysia and Thailand and all.
Wow.
So I was able to
pretty great.
visit Bogor and the Singapore Botanical Garden. And
Were you collecting and bringing things
I
back?
mailed back seeds that are growing as plants at Waimea right now from some of these places.
And now, David, is that your legacy of bringing, like, sort of a la Keith, bringing things into Waimea Valley that are rare and special and you knew would grow there and be very an asset to the
Yeah, and
valley?
especially as I started to realize the inventories of the other gardens,
Mm-hmm.
I found out which plants I could easily, they could part with propagules of
Right,
certain hibiscus that Waimea didn't have yet.
right.
And so I did a lot of exchanging, me doing the driving too, which I wouldn't want to do today.
Mm-hmm.
But between Honolulu Botanic Garden and Lion Arboretum and Waimea,
Mm-hmm.
I caused a lot of plants to get moved around.
At what point did the Hawaiian cultural aspect, because one of the things that people notice first off when they go into Waimea Valley is the extensive archaeological, I mean, we're talking about house sites, animal pens, heiau, lo'i, all the different
It's the last intact ahupua'a
Yeah.
in Oahu.
Yeah.
And it's really two valleys. It's the Waterfall Valley and then this very rich valley full of ruins that have not really been
At what point
interpreted
did
yet.
you, because it doesn't seem as though you were introduced to Hawaiian culture in any particular strong way in the
Not really,
past,
no.
but at what point did you begin to see that really the value of Hawaiian culture was to bring that back into people's perception?
Well, I was taken under wing by two wonderful aunties at Waimea, Auntie Kaula and Auntie Kalima. They were sisters.
Yeah.
And they were just my dearest friends. And they both have died, but I've
What
both
did they
their
think of
funerals.
you, Haole boy?
Oh, they thought I was, Auntie Kaula and my mom developed a great friendship.
Oh, great.
Yes. So, and she was just this most wonderful woman that never could enjoy her retirement at all because her kids were pumping out babies they couldn't care for. So she had the grandmother had to be the
Right.
mother. And
What were you doing for them? It was more than friendship. You were supporting their work, or they were supporting your work. How did the
we
relationship?
were just
develop?
friends and
Yeah.
worked together and
Did they ask you to do stuff for them?
occasionally, but nothing out of the
Nothing out of the ordinary. Yeah. Well, would you consider yourself Hanai to them?
Never. And I have always been so aware of my alienness to, I
You don't
know.
have white hair.
Well, that's true. But, there was a time once I'll never forget when Jerry Konanui, who was like the best guy in Taro, he wanted to honi me. And I just didn't feel worthy. And I just, I hugged him instead.
Yeah.
But this was in front of a lot of people, and I don't know if I embarrassed him by just kind of declining his offer like that, but it was really
Probably understood.
I think he did, yeah.
Yeah.
It was just I just didn't feel I was up on Jerry's level at all, but wow. I mean, Jerry was just one of these gods that I was brought in touch with. I mean, Keith was another one, Ray Baker was another.
Yeah.
Ken Nagata was another. He was the first person to write the Medicinal Plants of Hawaii book. And he was my teacher as a docent
I see.
at Lion Arboretum when I first started as a volunteer there.
Would you consider yourself a mentor at their level?
Now,
Yeah.
even to younger people, definitely, yeah.
Okay.
I'm
So
passing
you've
along.
actually put on the shoes there.
Yeah, and I'm training a really good guy, Jerry Coco, and he's got a PhD in botany,
Yeah.
and he's already, filling my role in my shoes.
Yeah.
He's can identify almost every weed at Waimea. He's got a great memory for plant names.
Every weed at Waimea. Now,
Yeah.
weeds, that's a whole profession, right?
It is, really. And to be familiar with the weeds and know what should be yanked
Yeah.
and what you should leave alone
Yeah.
is a real important part of our
And
job.
what do you think of this word malama? When you think of a garden, one of the many gardens that you've developed, and you think of the word malama, which is to care for, and you're training somebody like this young guy you're talking about, what's the little catch point where you say you got it, or you understand it? I mean, can you actually recognize that in somebody when you feel as though they can really malama something on their own, or really care
I
for
think
something?
Jerry definitely has the
Well,
ability
you can
to.
recognize weeds. That's a big part of it. Right?
Yeah, but he's got the right spirit too.
Yeah.
If anything, I'm a little worried that Jerry isn't as enthusiastic about exotics as I am. And that's the kind of thing where I'm now in the minority at Waimea, because
Right.
I still do treasure our original purpose was to keep alive a lot of very rare exotic plants that we've got growing at Waimea.
So this vision that you're just talking about here, this is a unique one, which is, and Keith, which is that Waimea is I don't know the word, but it's
A
almost,
refuge for these.
it's like a honua.
Yeah.
It's a place where rare plants from all over the world can be brought and respected and propagated, and it's beyond Hawaiian culture in the sense that it's a world cultural experience, but it's in a Hawaiian context. And
Yeah.
can that work?
Well, Harold Lyon basically had that same job
Is that
set
right?
out for him at Lyon Arboretum back in 1914.
I didn't know
And
that.
this was right, I guess, not quite in the wake of World War I, but
Yeah.
there was the definite threat that Hawaii could be cut off from the rest of the world, and
Right.
we better figure out what kind of crops we can grow here.
Right.
And so that is why Lyon became a great fountain of exotic plants. And
Yes.
they brought so many things in. But what's so impressive about Keith is he tried everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a dead card file representing every plant that didn't live at Waimea.
A
But
dead card file.
yeah, and I've got a living card file, which is much smaller now.
Well, tell me this: what is when you say the rare plants and the specialty plants from all over the world having a chance to survive there at Waimea Valley? How does that move into the future? How do you communicate those kinds of things to the people that are not only visiting, but the people that manage the garden, and you really hope that they will buy into that mission that you're on there? Because it seems a little precarious. I mean, you're saying that you lose plants, or you're not able to go out and gather plants necessarily as much as you might like to, or maybe the tourist aspect is more important than the scientific aspect. I mean,
No, I can't complain about. I mean, I've been supported very well.
Yeah.
I think there's just maybe it's our public
Yeah.
that is just not as highly expectant or as knowledge based as they should be about what a botanical garden should preserve.
right.
And I mean, what Waimea has always been very strong in is our Hawaiian cultural plants,
Sure.
named varieties of sugarcane and sweet potato, and we're, like I said, kind of the reference point for.
Are young people doing anything that really impress you there?
Yeah, there's actually a really nice group of interns.
Yeah.
We work with Kupu, which is the Hawaii's version of AmeriCorps.
Sure.
And it's a great deal for the valley because I think they get to hire a full-time worker for about $11,000 or $12,000 a year, and they take
Wow.
care of the insurance.
Yeah.
And then we'll have 2 or 3 Kupu people every year, and we'll choose the best one to go on our staff.
Right.
If there's an
So
opening.
there's these sparkle places that, of young people coming in, and you can kind of see it, and they're getting it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons why we're working with you, is because we really see that this legacy has to have a
Yeah, and Waimea's always had a
context.
good education department.
Yeah.
And they do expose a lot of really young kids to growing things. And
Right. And is Waimea Valley a model for other places in the world? I mean, I think of Hanapepe Valley. It's like 13 miles, 2 valleys, a big river, but it has nothing, essentially nothing that is culturally, developed to share with the rest of the world. I mean, but it certainly could. And there's many valleys in not only in Hawaii, but also in the Pacific Islands. Is it true, this is just a side question, is it true that in ancient Pacific Islands, there were valleys that were considered universities, where the valley itself was a place where people came from all over the Pacific to
I've not
study?
heard of that.
Really?
But
I'd heard of that a little bit because, you know, the schools of knowledge were well known, right? All right, so what's the future here? What's your future? What's the Valley's future here?
Well, I'm going to continue to support the collections that are still growing at Waimea and
Right.
hopefully still contribute new things,
Right,
and continue with my association with the other gardens, which is not nearly as what it used to be.
right.
I'm just kind of turning things over to Jerry now, and I hope he does a really good job. But I'm staying involved.
Sure.
They can't keep me out of the place, so I'm still half-time there, and I show up
Wearing the
far more than
uniform.
20. Oh, this is threadbare.
Yeah.
But yeah, I go there, and it's just nonstop. You know,
Yeah.
there's so much stuff that constantly needs to be done, and
Sure.
that's why I don't think I ever really broke and stopped the immediacy of what I was doing to look at the bigger picture and say, wait a minute, I should be, more in charge than I am
Right.
of what's going on here.
Right.
And basically, the leadership of Waimea Arboretum went to a lady named Josie Ho, and we get along very well. But as far as I can see, she basically never says no to the general
So
director.
she's not sharing the vision that we were talking about
No.
earlier there. Yeah. Well,
But I mean, I can work with her,
Sure.
and she's
And
still very
it's
kind to
always-
me, and I
yeah.
think she acknowledges that.
and as you see things diminish, you also see it ebb too. So there, I mean, like any organization that's not for profit totally, but there's a changing up and down. There's different pathways and opportunities. So let's try to bring it back full circle in the last couple minutes. What about these travel adventures that you had? And you're ending up in this place that you've contributed so much to.
I don't look
Is
at
there
my-
a connection?
Not really, because I look at my travel adventures as this rich kid frolicking in the third world.
Yeah.
It was actually thrilling to me at the time, and I
Yeah.
wrote quite a bit. I have all these
It opened
letters.
your mind.
Oh, completely,
It
yeah.
opened your heart. I mean, you're one of the most broad-minded
But I'm
people
never
I've
going to
ever
say
met.
that I was, really doing anything good by being an international traveler.
Hitchhiking through China.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly reacted. I always was conscious of myself being an ambassador and representing
Yeah,
the
that's the word.
goodness.
Right there, the ambassador.
Yeah, and as it is now, I don't think I want to go out of this country.
Yeah.
I'm just embarrassed at what has happened here, and I'm just ashamed.
You and many people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see as much international cooperation and research as I did in the heyday of Keith's era.
Yeah.
And
So that's
I don't
one
know
of the things
what
that's
to do about
diminished.
that, but
Yeah.
one of the most important things that happened while I was in my 36 years at Waimea was an 8-week course I took in 1993 at Kew Gardens in England, and it was on botanic garden management. And I, as an advisor over there, ended up with this guy named Mike Maunder, who was in charge of the conservation department at Kew. And together he and Keith and I got the rare and endangered Sophora toromiro, the plant that was rescued by Thor Heyerdahl from Easter Island.
Wow.
And it still is alive in a botanical garden in Chile. And we originally got plants from Easter Island, and then I managed to get, through a lot of correspondence after we lost those plants, to get new ones back from this garden in Chile. And that garden has recently just burned up in a fire.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm wondering if we're not sitting on the only living specimens of Sophora toromiro. I mean, I've shared them with other gardens already.
Well, for me, that's the exciting part.
It really is, yeah.
It really is exciting to find out your connections all over the world with people who love the plants that grow where they grow. And the connections botanically even, how did the species travel around the world? How do plants, and not only plants, but all of flora and fauna actually live on the earth and change? Because there's this whole thing that comes across our world right now, which is the number of extinctions is increasing. So our world is becoming smaller with our species, at least with animals and bugs and things like that. And so is the diversity of the planet going to create even more problems about things like global warming or pollination or all those kinds of things?
Most likely.
Yeah. So we're going to have to all learn how to eat real simple foods that don't have to come
Yeah,
from something
we are
that's
going to have to
pollinated.
react seriously to this government that's going to try to impose
Yeah.
some serious hardship on all of us. So that has really changed my perspective on a whole lot of things.
Maybe your love of plants is going to take us through. And
I hope so.
yeah. Well, thanks for coming, and thanks for being a part of our world.